welcome to Raise Radio. You are listening to the sounds of Raise Radio, a holistic wellness podcast with wisdom from Raina Lutz, based in the Okanagan, BC, Canada. Today, I'm going to be talking about the difference between mentors, coaching, consulting, and I want to talk about what mentorship means to me. There's a speech that I had to prepare for a effective speaking competition I was in through JCI. JCI is the Junior Chamber International. It is an incredible networking social community group for young adults, 18 to 40. So I want to talk about, there's a lot of overlaps between coaching, consulting, and mentorship. And I can say that since 2011 in my practice that I have done a lot of all three. And I've done a lot of all three because there's been many overlaps with the people in my life, the people I'm coaching, people I'm consulting, and people I'm mentoring, as well as people who mentor me, which I'm going to close today's podcast by sharing stories of my favorite mentors in my life. When you're in the wellness space and you're helping people, whether it's on a spiritual level, an emotional level, a physical level, whatever you're helping them with, you tend to kind of move people through these. And the more that you get skilled in your practice helping people, the more that you can actually observe yourself helping someone. And you can see and know, is this person in need of a coach right now? Am I in a consulting role, or am I more of acting as a mentor for this person? And sometimes these roles shift within one session, and sometimes these roles shift within the lifetime of the client. For example, if you work with someone a long time, you might have times in your work with them where you're acting more as a coach, and you're, motivating them, and you're leading them, and you're helping them solve problems, and you're getting them more efficient with their systems. And, sometimes it sort of squeaks a little bit into the counseling territory where things are really hard for them, and you're holding their hand through some really dark stuff and helping them overcome some of their past issues that are showing up in the present. And then it can kind of shift back into more coach and consultant. Okay, now where you're at now, here's how to do this the most efficiently. And then there's times where you're acting more like a mentorship, where you're really just facilitating them to come to their own understanding and what the answers are for them based on all the work they've done in the past. And that's really exciting to watch. As I said, there's a lot of overlaps with these roles. And so to me, these are just to me. You can look these up online or talk to other people who do this work, and they might have a different perception of what these words mean to them. I'm just sharing with you what my perception is of these words and how I act in these roles for people. And my definitions of these things might change. We evolve, and things change and evolve. I want to start with coaching. There's a billion coaches out there, right? I don't call myself a coach. I've had people call me a coach. I've had people call me a life coach. I don't particularly love those labels. However, if someone else puts it on me, I'm not going to say, no, I don't like that, because that's their perception of what I'm doing for them. And that's wonderful. So to me, if I'm coaching someone, it's really going to be led by them. It's their session. What do they want to focus on? What do they want to get out of this? What do they want to be coached on? We start with what they need, right? We start with what their focus is. And I always open a session by saying just that. What's coming up for you today? What are we focusing on? And if I don't say that, people just leap into talking, and they'll take 20 tangents in half an hour. And then we're both going, okay. And neither of us know what the goal is. So right away, if I'm coaching someone right away, the first thing I'm going to say is, what are we doing today? What are we focusing on? What's coming up for you? What do you want to be coached on today? I love being able to prompt someone, and that's where I really shine in coaching. And I've had many people say that to me, is that you're really good at asking really good questions. So I know that when I can sit back and really listen to people, I will get really good questions that will prompt them to the next level of understanding and help them to be able to solve problems. I'm not telling them what to do. I'm helping them improve how they are doing it, how they're doing their own exploration of themselves and their observation of how they work, how they're showing up in the world, how they're walking through the world. Now, sometimes coaching does sneak a little bit into the counseling territory. I am not a registered clinical counselor. I repeat, I am not a registered clinical counselor. I don't have a therapist's degree. I don't have a counseling diploma.
Warning.
That's my disclaimer. However, a lot of people have told me that my work can help them the same or better as someone who has such. And that's because I understand people on a really deep level, because I have a lot of lived experience and I have experienced and walked through a lot of traumatizing things that people do not want to talk about with other people. And especially they don't want to talk about it with people who haven't been through it themselves. So there is immense power in being able to speak to someone who has walked that same dark terrain that you have. I understand people on a really spiritual level that those practitioners are not allowed to sneak into that territory. There's certain things they're not allowed to say. I am. And so this counseling territory, what that means is that if people are showing up and there's things being said or things coming up that it's like, have you been here before? How does your past tie in with this experience? We can reach into the past to help them figure out why this might be happening again, why this pattern's on repeat. Okay, so what part of me is either allowing this, creating this, calling this in? Like, why am I here again? Once we figure out the why, we can work on trying to heal that specific part that is causing this on repeat. That's where the sort of coaching, counseling, I'm using air quotes, and kind of can lead into the healing territory, because we're not just, going for the next, shooting for the next thing, the next, more. If there's things that I want to improve on, I want to improve on them in a way where I'm not going to be repeating that pattern in 6 months or a year or 2 years or every month or every week or every day for the rest of my life. It's like, how do I overcome this? With consulting, to me, consulting is teaching. It's like, here's how to do that, bada boom, bada bing. Right? Consulting to me really early on in my practice was mostly consulting. So people would say, I have this problem. And I would say, eat these foods. Or they would say, this is going on in my body and I want to lose this much weight and I want to do this and this and this. And I would say, here's what I recommend. It's not my favorite, but I am good at consulting because consulting is just being bossy. It's like, you have these problems. I can solve those for you. Boom, boom, boom. Here's what you do. I have a Virgo brain. I'm very organized. I'm very efficient. I see problems in spaces and in things that can easily shift the energy of those things. That is part of my skill set. And so if people present problems to me, I can easily see where the healing needs to happen, where the solutions need to come in order to transform that and transmute that. And so do all these things and you will find massive transformation. Right? But it's the coaching and the healing and the mentorship where people can actually experience the trauma healing that they need typically to be able to actually put all that stuff into action. Unless people are already working with a coach or have some other, awesome motivation in their life that keeps them on track. Usually with consulting, if you hand people a list of all the things they need to do, they will often go, yeah, okay, thanks, bye. Never to be seen or heard from again. So that's why my practice really had to evolve into like psychology, spiritual healing, energetic healing, traditional healing, like all of these things where I really recognize like people need more support because you can't just tell them what to do. There's very specific people that I can tell them what to do and they will just run and do it. Love those people. Hello to those people. Raise my hands to you. You people are awesome. Type A's. Okay, so consulting is more like teaching. Here's how to do it. And, I'm sharing. I'm like, here's my experience. Here's what I recommend. Now, mentorship to me, mentorship helps you find your own answers. To me, a mentorship is facilitating a strong relationship with that person. And it's also a mentorship for both the person being mentored and the person mentoring, is that both of those people need to have lots of dedication to their practice. So if someone comes to me and they're, brand new to the spiritual world, it's not like to put them down or anything. It's just like, there just needs to be some more experience and some more dedication and a little bit more like calm and focus before my information will be relevant to you. Because I have worked with people like that before, and they just brush off my information because it's not as exciting or sexy as some of the other stuff they're reading. So it's a waste of my time because I'm teaching people who aren't deeply understanding or appreciative of what I'm saying. Right? And it's a waste of their time because it's not what they want, at least not right now. So, and I don't want to have time wasted, and I don't want to waste people's time either. I want to talk about mentorship in the realm of this speech that I did. So for JCI, we did this effective speaking competition, and the focus was the role of mentorship in building leaders for tomorrow. So I want to share my speech with you, where I won the effective speaking competition in Kelowna. To me, mentorship is less about telling someone what to do and more about facilitation. To me, mentorship is threefold. The concept of mentorship is about facilitation, storytelling, and helping someone find their own internal guidance. So I want to tell you 3 stories today that exemplify my experience of mentorship in building the leaders of tomorrow. In order to best share this story, I'm going to take you back to my grade 5 field trip. And in grade 5, we filled our yellow school bus. We packed all the kids on it. We were going out onto the land, and we were so excited because we got to be out of the classroom, and we got to meet with a local elder. And so we got to see water, and we got to smell the sage, and we got to see pictographs, and we got to really experience life outside of the classroom. And I remember coming to this mountain, and I remember looking at the mountain, and I could very clearly see this polar bear. I saw his beady little eyes, his front paw, and a grassy patch on the mountain that made up his spiky back hair. And I remember saying to my best friend, I pointed at the polar bear and I said, "Look, do you see that polar bear?" And she said, "No, I don't see a polar bear." And then I started asking everyone else in the class, and no one saw the polar bear. No one. I was really disturbed by this. And the elder said, "Look in the middle of the mountain. You can see this eagle with his sharp beak, his talons, his wings spread wide." And everyone said, yeah, I see the eagle. He's beautiful." Huh? I'm squinting. I can't see the eagle? Huh? And so I was really disturbed. I was seeing things that other people couldn't see, and things that everyone else was seeing, I could not see. And I remember looking up at the elder. I was pretty ashamed, and I was embarrassed, and I was shy. And I looked up at him, and he looked down at me, and he gave me a little smile and a wink. And it was my first experience of a nonverbal mentorship where he was communicating to me that it was okay for me to be seeing differently from everyone else, that those differences were my strength. Fast forward to my early 20s, I found lots of other people who also saw the world differently when I found holistic arts and spiritual healing and holistic living. In my early 20s, I found my first formal mentor. Her name is Lisa Kilgore. She's an incredible holistic nutritionist. And Lisa's style of teaching me was in storytelling. So while my first nonverbal experience of mentorship was in facilitation of me understanding my differences were okay, what Lisa taught me with storytelling was that I needed to find my own style of teaching and coaching. So when I was first starting out, I would come to Lisa and say, "Oh, this client's dealing with this and that. What do I do?" And she wouldn't tell me. She would smile and she would tell me about how she was helping her clients right now, what plans she was making for certain clients and their issues. And it was her way of teaching me that I needed to come up with my own style of how I was going to help clients, because it was the style that I was going to use to help my clients, and it was specific to me and that it wasn't wrong. It was just my way. Fast forward to today. My mentor, George, is a medicine man in Vanderhoof. George teaches me what mentorship means in the way of allowing the person to use their own internal guidance to find their own wisdom. George is one tough cookie, and his style of teaching is to teach, and then long, awkward silences. Yeah. That style teaches me to be comfortable in my own skin and to go quiet and go inwards and seek my own internal wisdom and guidance. Because George teaches me that leaders aren't followers. George teaches me that leaders do not look externally for the answers, and they certainly don't look in their phones. They go quiet, they go inward, and they listen to their own wisdom. We all have that. And I'm so happy that through these amazing mentors I've had throughout my life, that I now get to be a mentor for other people, that I can be that person to teach someone to walk in the world this way. And being both a mentor and a mentee, I understand that when we walk in both worlds, that we automatically step into the role of becoming the leaders of tomorrow. So I ask you, if you can think of a time when you felt different or out of place, can you think of that time and realize that in that moment that you actually did have your power and that you were actually standing in strength and wisdom and guidance by being a little different from the crowd? I love my speech because it tells us a different story about mentorship, how we can, transform people's lives by allowing them to see things differently. And to me, that's really the underlying factor in all of this. It really doesn't matter what label we put on it, whether we're going to call someone a coach, a guide, a healer, a mentor, a facilitator, a consultant, right? Like a life coach. All of these words have been put on me. But at the end of the day, I'm not healing people. I'm not coaching people. I'm helping people to find their own answers. I'm helping people to do their own healing. And I'm helping people to improve themselves and see life from a different perspective. And I think that that is the best way to coach, consult, or mentor someone. That it's less about teaching and more about helping people access their own strength inside, because we all walk with that. You walk with ancient strength and wisdom from your ancestors, and you carry that in your own body. And so whether you are a mentor or a coach, or whether you are being mentored or coached by someone right now, I encourage you to remember that all the wisdom you need, all the answers you are seeking right now are already inside of you. Thank you for listening.